Well, hello there everyone, and welcome to another lesson in Alla Prima. So we're going to be continuing this still life that we started, and I do have to post the picture for the still life, but I've noticed that a lot of students have painted either a still life from life or also taken pictures from Unsplash, so that works perfectly well too. So I'm going to be using the same colors that I had before, but first I need to explain the reasoning behind the way that I'm structuring the lessons and what it's eventually going to take us towards. So starting off with Project 2, we had the complete classical approach. So transfer drawing and then underpainting and then building up the layers that way. As you notice, we transitioned towards starting off without the transfer drawing, and then we started off without the underpainting, just going in with an umber drawing and then going in with color underpainting. Well, you're seeing each transition build up in the online classes, just like with the practical figure drawing. The next step in practical figure drawing is going to be blocking in, so having a technical drawing of the human form. So what is all this building us towards? So the combination of classical with drawing, with Alla Prima, which I think that Alla Prima is a very important thing to have. And I'll tell you why. Because what we're building up towards is larger format portraits. So we're building up towards paintings that involve possibly multiple figures, multiple people, still life elements in the background. So we're building up the complexity little by little by little by little. So we're on week 49. We're going to be continuing to film these lessons. Eventually, what I'm going to do once we get to those larger format paintings is I'm going to structure a kind of like a building block process starting with Project 2 and then building up everyone as we go. We don't have enough lessons to do that yet, but we're building our way up towards that. So I wanted to explain exactly why I'm filming this the way it is, because it seems like this may have confused a lot of students. Why on earth did I jump to painting a pumpkin? Well, again, it's not about the pumpkin. It's about the paint handling. So that's what Alla Prima is all about. It's all about the paint handling and how to be quick with your paint handling. So again, everyone in the $10 online tier, that's what it's building us up towards. Everyone here in the live stream tier, please feel free to ask me any questions as you're seeing here. So everyone watching this as a pre-recorded video, again, I have to explain. This is the benefit of the live stream tier. So everyone in the live stream tier can ask me questions, art-related questions, as I am painting. So that's what that's about. Hey, John. How are you doing, John? I sent you a message about the virtual classroom. And again, the virtual classroom, everyone, is a pre-recorded video. It's a pre-recorded video. So this is the titanium white alkyd. These are all alkyds. This is the cadmium yellow deep hue. So I'm adding the colors on the palette. And everyone here, live stream tier, please feel free to ask me any art-related questions. Also, Zoom, the Zoom group tutoring tier tomorrow will be the first group Zoom tutoring lesson. Remember, everyone, in the other tiers, that takes nothing away from you, as I've been explaining. So pretty soon I have to trim off some of the dry paint because it's actually starting to turn into a tower. But it'll work fine like that. Hey, John, you got the message? Okay, good. So now I'm putting in the raw umber. So I need to explain more about the alkyds because I am noticing a lot of interest in the alkyds. To be honest, alkyds, had I known how to use them in the past, had I known to use them in the past, I'll tell you what. I used to use Gamblin's version of the Gamblin's fast matte alkyd. And I just found that it dried too fast. It was like dry within hours, which was too much, too quick. So that was my first impression of alkyds. And then I ended up trying the Griffin alkyd. I think I heard of the Griffin alkyd through Cesar Santos, another painter on YouTube. I saw that he was using the Griffin alkyd Winsor Newton. And I remember looking at the tube, looking at the silver part of the tube, thinking it was Winton. So I was like, what are you doing? And of course, as you know, I really enjoy using the alkyds. And tell you what, I've had a commission that I've been working on recently that I had to complete in a couple days, which is insane. It's a little out of the ordinary of a commission that I had to do. Again, the family commissioned me after a loved one passed away recently, on last Tuesday actually, and I had to have the commission completed. So, another explanation into the alkyds. I've been doing a commission for the past couple days that would have taken me weeks had I not been using the alkyds. So that is a major pro to the alkyds, that you can create something that would normally take you weeks in just days with the alkyds. And it's a little advanced to talk about accelerating a portrait commission like that, but we're going to get into things like that in the future. Alrighty, so now that we have all the colors, hopefully I've explained a little bit more about the alkyds and why they're so useful. Another thing I want to say about the alkyds is that they don't sink in quite as much as the non-alkyds. So I'm going to call oil paints that aren't alkyds, I'm going to refer to them as non-alkyds, because these, I consider them to be oil paints, not strictly alkyd paints. I consider them to be oil paints. So now, notice that I'm going to use medium. So I'm going to start off pretty much wherever. So this is going to be another paint handling thing that I'm going to be introducing with Alla Prima. And this is actually how I've been doing the commission in this approach, in this technique. And I've been sending the client images of the commission just to make sure that they're okay with, they're happy with the likeness. And I'm going to talk more about commissioning in the future. But with alkyd, you can now start to build up your painting right in the middle of the first and second layer. It's that fast. So again, this would have taken me what, like I said before, like 5 lessons to get to this point using Alla Prima. And yes, I'm glazing. You can just jump right into glazing. And as I was saying, the medium that you used before is not quite as it doesn't have to be the same exact medium that I'm using. For instance, you could be using Liquin. That's perfectly fine. You could be using Neo McGilp. That's perfectly fine. You could be using Galkyd. So if you catch my drift, as long as the medium is a gel-like medium, it'll handle the same as Venetian medium. But Venetian medium still is my absolute favorite to use. So we're adding a glaze, and what I'm going to do is continue to build the structures or the lobes of the pumpkin. Now, suppose we were doing the larger format painting. Hey Gary, are alkyds with water mixable oil paints? Excellent question. Gary. So you can use a little bit of alkyd oil paint in with water mixable oil paint if you would like to keep your oil paints cleanable with water. Now you can do this so long Okay, so you can use alkyd you can put alkyd into non-alkyd oil paints. You can put alkyd into water mixable oil paints to expedite the drying time. So long as you don't use, now I'm talking strictly about water mixable oil paints now, so long as you don't use water anymore in the painting process. Only use water to clean the brushes afterwards. So that's going to be very important. So you can use alkyd mixed into water mixable and still clean your brushes with water, but just make sure to clean your brushes with water only after you're done painting. But that's a great question. Thank you, Gary. And now I'm glazing a little bit in the back corner. So suppose you were working on a larger format painting, and again, I have a larger format painting in progress in the studio right now. So I'll show you exactly what I. Hold on, I just got an email. Okay, so if everyone notices my tone of how I'm speaking right now, it's because I've received a lot of complaints. So I've been looking at the messages. I've been spending a lot of time, basically haven't had any rest for weeks now, and I've been looking at the messages. I should be caught up with the messages now. I had 60 messages to go through, and please continue to send me messages because I've set up all of my devices. I can receive notifications like right when I'm streaming. So I'm noticing now that someone changed from the live stream tier to the $10 a month tier, the online class tier. Now, if you change from the live stream tier to the mentor tier, that means that you can't click onto the post that only $20 a month live stream tier can see. So to explain that, so you know who you are, so you're sending me a message right now, and I'm going to be messaging you later. It's all right. It's just a little bit of a misunderstanding there, but I'm trying to keep the tone a little bit more informative, as I've noticed a lot of complaints about the ways that I've been, I've been too informal, I guess. I've been told that I've been too informal. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more formal with how I run these online lessons. So let's see, we got a question here, art-related question. Cecile, but if the first layer is with classical oil and the next is with alkyd, which dries faster, the first layer will be imprisoned. So Cecile, this is true as long as your first layer is dry. So remember project 5, we started with the Rembrandt that we're going to be finishing soon. We started with non-alkyds. But that start was weeks before I switched into alkyds. So you are correct in that if you start with slower drying layers in the beginning and then introduce fast drying layers, it can compromise the paint film a little bit. This is true. So what I would say, Cecile, is just make sure that your non-alkyd oil painting layer is completely dry. Give it at least a week to 2 weeks. If you're using water mixable oil paints, it may take up to a month or two for the layer to be dry enough to work over it with alkyd. And yes, you can work alkyd. Any oil paint you can work over top of acrylic and not vice versa. So I'm starting to build the layers, and again, if you were in the middle of a larger format portrait painting, figure painting, or any kind of larger format painting, and you're in the middle stages, and oops, you find that you have to move something, which is how it is. You have to move something and that happens. What are you going to do? You're not going to just put in um, a complete underpainting or something like that to add or subtract things. You're gonna be able to just go right in with color and figure out all of the components. So the forms, so now you notice how I'm kind of softening a little bit as I go towards the ending of the lobe of the pumpkin here. And yes, I didn't know that term was called lobe. Um, I always call them just bumps on the pumpkin, but they're actually called lobes. So see how I'm putting in, I changed from the I changed from the cadmium yellow deep hue mixed with basically these three colors, and I switched into the alizarin because not only do I want a darker color here for this lobe, but I also want a reddish tone, that's not too opaque, and that's why I switched to the lake red, the alizarin. Yep, no problem, Cecile. And so yeah, again, I have to apologize everyone that I wasn't able to get to all of the messages in the past. I had help so my fiance is working with me now. I had help to get through all of the messages and to have them organized. What I wish is that I could answer the messages while I'm streaming, so if I could have had her answer a question that I got. So someone switched from the live stream tier to the $10 a month tier, and they basically weren't able to get the link for this because it's a benefit. This is a benefit of the live stream tier. So that's something that I had to explain there. Okay, I just got another message. So during the time of this stream, I think I've received 5 messages already. So I'll be getting to everyone, no worries. Now look how I'm going in. So did you notice the transition from here to here to here? So I started to add right there, as you're seeing, lighter, more opaque, lighter and more opaque, darker and more transparent in the lobe. So as I was saying, what we're going to get to when we move into the larger format painting, see there I go again, more opaque and lighter. When we eventually get to the larger format paintings, you're going to be building it with color and with an understanding of classical painting. But I'm telling you now, if you try to do a full classical painting approach with commissions in the future with your larger format paintings, those paintings are going to take you months to complete. So what you're going to get out of this with these online classes is the inside scoop, basically, of how I will be producing the paintings that you're going to see in the future. So the commissions that we're going to have, hopefully we have some connections to a commissioned portrait of a princess. We have some connections with diplomats. So I'm going to get into those kind of paintings, and I want you, everyone here in the online classes, to have the inside scoop of how a portrait artist goes about fulfilling those requirements, because it's not such a transfer the outlines, fill in the dark, put in all of that. It's more of an interactive process where you're building everything sequentially, but also giving yourself enough room, see that, to be able to adjust as you're going. And it's a much more free, it's a much more liberating, free, and fun, I want to say, way to approach painting. And of course, if you want to do the full classical approach for the larger format paintings, if that's what you're more comfortable with, then you can do that, definitely. But what I want is for everyone to have the tools to be able to do so. So I've been talking like non-stop. So everyone here in the live stream tier that's watching this lesson, as it's being created. Please feel free to ask me any questions. Which means I'm going to be a little bit more quiet now. So I'm just waiting for any messages or any concerns. So remember, everyone that's watching this is a pre-recorded video. This right here that you're seeing is the benefit of the $20 a month tier, the live stream tier. Hey Carol. Oh, good. I was trying to... I wanted to respond to you, but I couldn't because I was filming. So yeah, this is the benefit of the live stream tier, but the $10 a month benefit is to get all of the pre-recorded videos. So as I was explaining before, but I'm glad that you're back, Carol. Okay, so now, see when I go lighter, it's a little bit more opaque. So you're going to want to know when to transition from opaque to transparent. Basically, the lighter it gets, the more opaque, as I was saying before. So again, as I was saying, everyone, here in the live stream tier, I'm going to slow down my narration because I've been talking a lot, and feel free to ask me any questions. Hey Carol, thanks for joining us. Sorry about the mix-up that happened there with Patreon. Now punching up the highlight on the pumpkin there. Hey Ed, could you tell us again what tube colors you are using for this? Yep, excellent question. So again, another excellent example, everyone watching this as a pre-recorded video of what the benefits are for the $20 a month live stream tier. This is the benefit being used to the fullest. So thank you, Ed. Yeah, I can explain what tube colors. This is Griffin Alkyd Titanium White. I actually had to order another one, and it's been kind of delayed in the mail, but as you're seeing how much of it I use. So I'm in trouble. If I run out of this before I get my next shipment, I'm in some trouble. So this is Titanium White Griffin Alkyd. This is, and I'm just running along the list, this is Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue. This is, again, they're all the same brand. Going along to the right, you have the Yellow Ochre. These are all, again, the same brand. And now we have Windsor Red. So, of course, I don't have a cadmium red now. But it works just fine without the cadmium red, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. So, Windsor Red. Permanent Alizarin Crimson. This is another one that I have to restock on. I've already ordered it. And now we have the Raw Umber, the Ivory Black, and the Ultramarine Blue. Raw Umber, Ivory Black, Ultramarine Blue. Those are these. And all Alkyds, all Griffin Alkyds. Hey Carol, I've started to go over my old paintings on cheap canvases with gloss medium and can now finish them. Uh, so that's a medium with acrylic, I believe. So that's awesome. I don't think I've tried that one, the gloss medium, yet. But as I was saying, everyone, the Alkids surprised the daylights out of me. Like they surprised me so much with the quality of the color, the drying time, the fact that they don't fade, they don't sink in quite as much, and according to some readings that I've some readings, um, they are very archival. So should I say Alkyd is a very archival material. So I've got nothing but positive things to say about these Alkyds. Let's see. Did I miss a question? Oh no, it's a message retracted. Um, hey Carol, using it like gesso. Awesome. Hey Gary, have you decided not to use Cobra paints because they take forever to dry? Yeah. That's the. Let me show you actually, Gary, and everyone watching and that's wondering about Cobra. Cobra colors are great, but yes, it's the drying time. That's the reason. That's the reason you've nailed it. That's the reason why I'm not using the Cobra as much because of the drying time. And I'll show you an extreme example of the drying time. So if you give me a second here, I'm just gonna get up and move for a little bit. Alright, and I'm back. So if anyone remembers, this painting here was done in one of the virtual painting sessions, one of the early virtual painting sessions with Cobra. This painting took more than a month to dry, and I still have some flaking of the light coming off. So I can't varnish this one yet. And if I can't varnish it, I can't sell it. So this one, again, if anyone's wondering why this one was never put on Etsy, is because it's still drying. So this one here is probably maybe, I want to say maybe it's 2 months old, and it's still in the middle of drying. I have no complaints with the color range. With Cobra, the way that the paints handle, no problem, no problem. The only thing is the drying time. And again, everyone, if you have no issues with the paint taking as long as it's taking to dry, the color range is fabulous. The color range that you get out of Cobra is really good. But again, this is an extreme example. I mean, there's still some paint. It feels like some paint is flaking off, but again, it took more than a month for it to dry. So you know, if I were to do paintings that would take more than a month to dry, I wouldn't be able to sell any of them because I wouldn't be able to varnish it without the paint later having some problems. So that's exactly why I'm not using the Cobra at the moment. Oh, yep, no problem, Carol. So again, not to discourage anyone from Cobra. I don't want to discourage you from Cobra because if you do have allergies or something that doesn't let you use the traditional oil paints, then Cobra is perfectly fine. And even that, having said that, the most dangerous thing about oil painting, if we're talking about material safety, is solvent. It's the solvent. So a big solution to that problem, I'd say the best solution to that problem is using spike lavender. And now I'm putting in a darker kind of reddish glaze. And as you're seeing, I'm pushing the form on this pumpkin beyond that of the scope of the photo reference. And again, I've changed the tone of how I speak in these online lessons again because I've received a lot of complaints about me not being formal enough in the online lessons. So please let me know. Again, thank you for everyone that brought this up to me. So I'll do my best to be more formal and more informative in the filming of each of these lessons. So, yep, this is a little bit of a transparent reddish glaze. Let's see. Hey Carol, what is the kind and number of brush you are using? This is a, see the thing erased, but I believe this is a size 6 Simply Simmons. The sizes vary a lot. A good reference, actually, I'm going to use this more frequently now, is my pinky. So you can gauge the width of the brush with my pinky. So you can see that the brush is a little bit smaller than my pinky. Hey Cecile, I appreciate to see you speaking face to face at times. Well, I hope that helps. Thanks, Cecile. Hey Carol. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've received complaints about not being formal enough by more than one student, so I need to be very careful about being more informative. So as I was saying, everyone, this is going to build us up towards larger format paintings. And like I said, I want you to have the inside scoop. All of my students, I want you to know the techniques and the approaches and all of the mechanics behind the future portrait paintings that I'm going to create. I'm hoping to have commissions again of diplomats and along the lines of Sargent and Nelson Shanks. I hope to get to that point soon. So I want to be able to do those larger paintings, and I'm going to show you all of the techniques involved in that. And then we're going to continue to evolve the online classes and create more and more and more bodies of work, and it's going to be fun. And informative, of course. Hey Carol, that's funny, yeah. Maybe I should wear a tuxedo, make it more formal. Hey Kathy, I now have Cobra water-based oil paint, regular oil paints, and alkyds. For me, I only paint on the weekends. Cobra is dry enough. Every other weekend, I will use it if we ever do landscapes. We'll get to landscapes. That's going to be actually part of Alla Prima. So landscapes are going to be introduced with Alla Prima. So that's good to have a variety of different materials. to explore. I feel like some schools of thought kind of stick to one thing and then just don't change or don't explore. So I find that it's very useful to be able to explore. And now I'm putting in the floor, so the darkest dark underneath of the pumpkin, and then I'm going to push the reflected light under it. And another complaint that I've been getting a lot with the online classes is that some students think that it's the same as the YouTube public sessions and the Twitch. And again, the difference, everyone that's watching this as a pre-recorded video, the difference is that the audience on YouTube, the audience on Twitch, this is a unlisted YouTube video, so only you have to be part of a certain tier to watch this, of course, on Patreon. The difference is that I'm not letting people from YouTube send me images each week to be featured in a virtual classroom. They're not receiving behind the scenes videos each week. Each painting that I create that the public can see, I really don't explain it that much. I simply paint. I don't explain how one thing will build and lead to another thing. I don't explain any of that to the public just because there's no time to do it. And that's why I created the online lessons to begin with, because I wanted to excuse me, have more time to dedicate to teaching for those of us that are very serious about learning. So I gotta clarify that with each one of these streams. So the dark is more transparent. A little more medium goes into the shadow. I'm using the same old brush. And of course I'm going to leave some of this to vignette. Just going to let it fade into the background there. Or the foreground, I guess. So just like that, we're nearly completing the pumpkin, which is extremely fast for, if we were to compare this to traditional painting, and traditional in the sense of the careful transfer drawing and everything like that. And like I was saying before, you can take the background you can take negative shapes into positive shapes, so that's what I'm going to do. So see how I can adjust the edge, and if I wanted to, I can add the other pumpkin and it wouldn't be a problem. But I'm not going to do that. So next time, so if you're interested in it, Kathy and everyone, the next Alla Prima could be a landscape if you're interested in landscape. Or the next Alla Prima will be another still life. But very soon we're going to be completing Project 4. We're going to be completing Project 5, starting another master study. And then we're going to put in the technical drawing block in addition to practical figure drawing. So a lot coming soon to a Patreon post near you. Hey Carol, why are you painting it transparent in the shadow? Just because I like to have thicker paint in the light, that's all. It's kind of like an old master type of trick to be able to have more paint build up in the light and less paint build up in the shadows. But you can create a perfectly amazing painting with everything being opaque throughout or everything being transparent throughout. It's just preference. Now see how I'm adjusting this edge? taking the background right into, so taking the negative shape right into the positive shape. Let's see, so question mark. So, Carol, the dark is more transparent just because I want thicker paint in the light. That's all. And so Carol, as I was mentioning to everyone before, I had, or I am completing a commission recently. A family commissioned me. How do I word this? My, well, in my, let's call them the in-laws, right? The in-laws, family, friends lost someone to the virus last week, and they commissioned me to create a posthumous painting, so painting of the person that has recently passed away. But the thing is, I had to have that painting completed in a couple days, so it would be impossible for me to do that without alkyds. So I'll show you what the painting will look like, or what the painting looks like once it's complete. I actually have to complete it today and have it sent to them tomorrow. So so in between streams, I'm going to be finishing a commission. So I want you to know that the alkyds made that possible for me. And see how I'm actually adjusting the corner of the pumpkin there. The alkyds made that possible for me. I would not be able to finish a painting in a couple days without fast drying oil paints. It would just be impossible. Alright, so let me get to the questions from the top down to the bottom. So, Kathy, I started with Cobra because of health concerns, but realized it's turpentine that's hazardous. Lead in paint is not dangerous unless you eat it or have an open wound. I use spike lavender oil. Yep, spike lavender is definitely the safest medium that you can use. Scientifically, it's been scientifically tested and shown to be safer to use than any other medium. Hey Carol, not in a hurry with Lawson's painting. His birthday's in March. So yeah, that one, yeah, I like that last image that you sent me, Carol, but yeah, I can respond to you through the email. As you know, and as everyone knows, hopefully everyone knows at this point, I'm caught up with the messages. I hope I am caught up with all of the messages on Patreon and with the emails. So I did the best that I could to catch up with all of the emails and the messages. And I've had help, of course. My fiance is helping me with that. And she's the one posing for me for the larger format painting that you're going to see soon. Yep, no problem, Carol. See, taking again the negative shape out into the positive shape here. Okay, so now that I've covered that section of the pumpkin with the smaller brush, I'm going to switch to an even smaller brush to put in some more of the forms for the pumpkin, the stem of the pumpkin. And as I was saying before, Alla Prima has a very useful yet difficult aspect to it where anything goes. You can start with anything. I can start with the highlight, I can start with the dark, I can start with the middle tone. It doesn't matter. It's not like with classical where I have to build it a specific way to get a specific look. I do not have to do that, so I can build it however I want, which is a very fun and kind of a liberating way to paint. So again, started with the dark area of the stem, and now we're going to be putting in more details for the stem of the pumpkin. Hey Kathy, yeah, that's something I have to figure out about the group zoom. I only have two, or not two, I only have one actually. Technically, whoever is in the top tier, so the one-on-one, has access also to the group zoom. And the group zoom tier has access to everything in the tiers below it. So yeah, I think that the group zoom is going to start with only one participant, which is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. But yes, it only one. Hey Gary, my pumpkin is too tall, so I guess I can flatten it by using the background. Exactly. Exactly, Gary. That's what I would do. I would use the background. You can pull the background into the positive shape. So you can sculpt it. Alla Prima is this like free form, fluid type of approach to painting where you can just move anything very quickly. But as I said before, the reason I introduced Alla Prima at lesson, I think it was like lesson 47 when I finally introduced Alla Prima, is because of the difficulty in drawing. But as you're seeing, it actually, I find that Alla Prima helps me with drawing because when I have color in the mix, literally, when I have color in the mix, it helps me to be able to see drawing mistakes faster than if I didn't have color. But for the majority of us, so for the general public, I think that Alla Prima is a little harder in that if you're not familiar with color, it makes the process a little more complex. But once you have a familiarity with your color palette, I find that it helps with drawing in an odd way. Hey Kathy, I have a weekly meeting at 11 a.m. or I would join. Maybe I can convince them to move my meeting. Oh, thanks, Kathy. That's all good. It's up to you. Hey, Gary, does it need to be dry before reworking? Yes, I would make sure that the painting is dry before reworking. Just make sure that the painting is not in between drying while you're working. So if it like feels like it's almost dry, but like if the paint film feels kind of like brittle, then it's not dry enough. Another thing you can do, Gary, is to, if you want to test whether the painting is dry, this part is dry. I haven't touched it yet. So what you can do is get a palette knife or a razor or anything and just very lightly, now don't cut into it. Please don't cut into the painting. Just very lightly drag it and look at the palette knife or the razor. I guess I should have done it with a palette knife, so I'm not holding a razor up in front of the screen, so let's do this again. So if you see any of the paint film lift off, that means that it's not dry enough to rework. Hey Kathy, my pumpkin looks like it's floating in the air. Hopefully you can help me tomorrow in the virtual classroom. Yeah, definitely we'll be able to give you some suggestions with that. And the tip of the pumpkin is going to be over here. So see how I'm working with masses of color and value. So I no longer have to work for the outline to fill in the outline anymore. I don't have to do that. I can just go in with large shapes of color and just fill it in. And again, Alla Prima is a technique, again, it's something that I want you to have in your toolbox. So you can use any of the approaches that you would like when we get into larger format painting, but again, this is something I want to be added to your toolbox, so to speak, of techniques. And that should be almost about good for the pumpkin, actually. Just a little cast shadow there. That's still a little too light. Hey Gary, well mine looks like a muffin, so I would take floating. You know, that's perfectly fine. I mean, all pumpkins like us, we're all a little different. And that's perfectly fine. And remember, Alla Prima, this section of the online classes is meant to help you with paint handling. So I wouldn't stress too much about the drawing of it. There we go, now we have the cast shadow. So, yeah, don't worry too much about the drawing, everyone. And I usually don't say that, huh? But with still life, that's one of the nice things about still life, is that you can paint basically anything that you want to paint. So when it comes to the floatingness of a still life, I would just make sure that the accent is well defined. So Kathy and everyone wondering about how to make something look like it's resting on a surface, the answer is right here. So if the accent isn't clear, that's usually what gives the effect of something floating. So I'm actually going to put the reflected light in here so you can see exactly what I mean with the accent. So the accent is basically when one form meets another form. So for instance, my right hand meets my left hand, blocks out the light. So right here, it blocks out the light, and that's what makes it look like this hand is resting on top of this hand. If it wasn't, see that, then you wouldn't have the dark value here. That's what makes it float. That's what makes it look like one form is resting on top of another. So as long as you have this accent here, this dark met with this reflected light, it'll make it look like the pumpkin is resting on a surface. Even if there isn't a surface here, because I don't think I'm going to paint this part, even if there isn't a surface here, it will look like the pumpkin is resting on something. So that should be about it for the pumpkin. We just about have a completed pumpkin. The the background is going to be left like that because, well, I don't want to do too much to the pumpkin. So, just like anything, like any of the streams, now that we have a finished painting, I'm going to be signing it. Also, this is the time now to ask me any questions. And next time, we're going to either work on Project 4, building it up to a finish, or Project 5. But I'll ask you here, everyone here. Let's see. Hey Ed, is the table edge still to be done? I don't think you have to do that. Again, this is about paint handling. So the main focus is here on the still life object that you're painting, whether it's a pumpkin, a muffin, a squash, or anything. The main emphasis is on the central still life. Not so much down here. You don't really have to worry about that. Light, shadow, cast shadow, background. So light, shadow, cast shadow, background. That's all you need to get something to read. So again, just a recap of what we used to talk about before. I'll go through all of the forms that make something look round. So you have the highlight, which others refer to as specular reflection. You have the light right here. So highlight, light. So I'm going from the lightest to the darkest, and I'm explaining the values as I go. So highlight, light, middle, light. So these are middle lights now. Dark, middle lights. So halftones right here, here, and here. Halftones. And halftones get darker as the form approaches being closer to perpendicular to the light source. So everything that's more perpendicular to the light source gets darker. That's why each one of these halftones are the way they are. And then, as you go closer and closer to the shadow, you reach what is referred to as the dark light. The dark light is the halftone just as light approaches shadow. Then you have the terminator line. See how it's a little bit darker? So the terminator line literally is the distinction between light and shadow. And these are things that we talked about in Project 1 and in Project 2 a long time ago, but I'm just recapping it here. And then you have the shadow. So from the terminator we went to the shadow. Reflected light. Accent. This is what makes a form look like it's resting on something. And then the cast shadow. And even the cast shadow has a soft edge here. This is the penumbra. So that, and then the background, of course. The background could be any value you want. The background is basically the same value as the cast shadow. So that was just a little recap of that. So yeah, let's see what questions we have from the live streamers here. Hey Kathy, I lost my darks and lights in my pumpkin. Can I repaint them while it dries? As long as, yeah, you can do that. As long as you're repainting onto an area that's dry. Good question, good question. And this is something that's actually going to come up in larger format paintings. So if a section of your painting is wet, suppose this section was wet and this section was dry. This is dry, this is wet. You can work on this section while this is wet. That's perfectly fine. And that's actually something that's going to come up in the larger format paintings. So this is definitely, that's definitely going to be something we'll talk about in larger format paintings. Hey Carol, I'll Gmail you about the, yep, we can definitely talk about that. Yeah, and that's a very exciting, Carol, very exciting. Very exciting news. Hey Ed, will this be on Etsy? I have a hard time selling still life on Etsy, so I don't know. I may put this on Etsy, but these are a little difficult to sell on Etsy. Hey Cecile, as you have a lot of emails, please keep me the 10 a.m. on Fridays starting January 1st. Okay. This is okay. So January 1st. So as long as I have the notification that you're in that tier, and we'll work it out. And yeah, no problem with everything that you mentioned in your messages, and hopefully, Cecile, I was able to respond to your messages adequately. But yeah, very much looking forward to that, Cecile. Let's see. So, question here. Please tell me the size of the panel. If I have to tone it, if I have to draw before. So yeah, 11 by 14 inches is perfectly fine, and I would tone it with a raw umber. So that's an excellent question, actually. For everyone that's considering the Zoom, or if anyone is considering the Zoom tutoring tier or the one-on-one tutoring tier, you can use any surface that you'd like, but what I recommend is an 11 by 14 inch panel that you tone with raw umber. That's what I suggest. Also, I had questions about scheduling individual group tutoring, or not group tutoring, one-on-one sessions. I have to figure out the logistics behind that, but that is a possibility. But I have to figure out the logistics behind that. Alright, so yes, that's the size, and toned with raw umber. So yep, they're 11 by 14 inches. So great question, great questions. And again, everyone who's watching that, was wondering about this, because I see that this also confused a lot of students. So let me try to clarify the confusion with each one of these lessons. So as everyone's typing, so everyone here in the live stream tier, please type any questions that you have. And I'm going to go ahead and explain the way the classes run with the ending of each one of these lessons, just so it's very clear. So $10 a month is the beginning of the online classes. That grants you access to all of the pre-recorded footage, and you can send me images directly to my Gmail as an attachment every week for the weekly virtual painting, virtual classroom, for the weekly virtual classroom. The virtual classroom is a pre-recorded video. It's not streamed so that everyone can watch, because if that were the case, it would take much longer for each one of the virtual classrooms. So in any case, the virtual classroom is a pre-recorded video. So that is the beginning of the online classes. You can see all of these pre-recorded lessons. Now, the online classes are building us up sequentially to do more complex, larger format paintings. That's what we're going to get to in the future. So the next step up is the live stream tier. So those of you that are watching this as pre-recorded videos, if you would like to be able to communicate with me, ask me questions during the creation of a lesson, that's exactly what you're seeing here. This is the benefit of the live stream tier. Now, the live stream tier has all of the benefits of the tier beneath it, and the same thing goes with each of the other tiers. So moving up to the group Zoom tutoring tier. Group Zoom tutoring tier also has all of the benefits of the live stream tier. The group Zoom tutoring tier, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday, we will be having a Zoom meeting for an hour at 11 a.m. each week on Tuesday. We will be painting together, and I will be able to see all of you and talk with you directly. There will be audio and video. And I've already created a behind the scenes explaining this. Akaw also sent us a suggestion for a better tripod, so that's I've edited that. I put another link to another tripod, so you will need that for the Zoom. The next step up from the group Zoom tutoring tier is the one-on-one. So for instance, Kathy has the 9 a.m. slot for every Friday. Every Friday I will be painting with Kathy one-on-one at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Once that ends, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. starting January 1st, as Cecile has written, we will be doing the painting session from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. This means that after January 1st, any time slot between 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., which ends my workday, is available if you want to paint with me one-on-one. So hopefully that clarifies the online lessons, and I'm going to keep reiterating this at the end of every lesson just to make it as crystal clear as I can possibly make it. So let's see, and now I'm going to read the questions, if we got any questions. Oh, thank you so much for joining today, Carol. Hey Ed, someday a class on stretching canvases. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Oh, hey Kathy, I'm glad that you found this instructive. I hope that everyone finds this instructive, and I'm sorry for not being as formal in the past. Hey Gary, I'm glad this was fun. Hey Carol, do you ever sleep? It's a good question. I was working on my commission till around 1 in the morning. Sleep. Sleep is for the weak. I'm just kidding. Now I'm being a little less formal, so that means I should probably go sleep a little bit, at least for an hour before I stream on Twitch. So no, I don't really get that much sleep. Yep, take care, Cecile. Yep, no problem. Alrighty. So again, I hope that everyone finds this informative and, educational. I wish you all the very best. Yeah, I'll have a tuxedo in the next class. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork. And this is a Monday, so that means I'll see you again on Wednesday. Remember, the virtual classroom pre-recorded video will be released tomorrow night. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you on the next one.